What is up, great people? This is Kevin J. Kev B, Kev JB. That is the name that I've gone with now. It used to be Kevin J Brown here, and now it's Kev JB for the channel. In any case, um, I am going to talk about this topic of abuse and predators and enablers and apologists, but I am going to talk about it in a different perspective because originally, when I first started to go about this topic, I was doing it from the standpoint of actually just talking about the situation with Quiet on Set, and then recently the P Diddy situation came up, and I was going to try to find a way to infuse those topics in a way where I would talk about how there are enablers and apologists protecting abusers and predators, and putting a focus on the problem at hand. When the truth of the matter is, this channel doesn't really reflect that, or at least it's not supposed to. I want it to be a channel that is actually focusing on humanity and growth and purpose for people, and using that as a means of a remedy to make a counter stance against enabling and protecting abuse. So because of that, I'm changing the topic a bit. Well, not a bit. I'm changing the perspective of the topic so that way that we can be able to have a more holistic perspective on how to um, put an end to a lot of the enabling and protection that we see, at least within our own lives. There may be some things that we may not be able to do, and actually there are things that we could do collectively. However, most importantly, in your own individual lives, or when it comes to helping others, or even from the standpoint of preventing it from happening to um, your children and descendants down the line, I think it's a lot more advantageous and a lot more beneficial to create an environment of productivity and proactivity and being able to empower rather than helping people feel powerless about the situation that is at hand and just simply complaining about it. So let's go into the topic. If you're here and you are liking what's going on so far on this channel, on this particular video, make sure that you hit the like button. If you're new here, make sure you are subscribed so that way that there are more. Um, you'll be able to be subscribed for more opportunities for the videos to come into your feed and things like that. So what originally inspired me to talk about this topic of abusing and predators and the enablers and apologists, the defenders that protect them. I know even the systematic protection from enablers and other abusers and apologists to ensure that these dangerous people have a safe haven. What led me to talk about that was the Quiet on Set documentary, and the specific focus on Dan Schneider and how Nickelodeon created an environment, a toxic environment of enablement um, for people like Dan Schneider and Brian Peck, and other predators that were on the set with children to thrive. And it was very hard to watch, to some degree, being able to kind of take in information and how it affected many of the child stars at that time, even for those who could not be able to speak for themselves or for herself, specifically for Amanda Bynes. um, and then I started looking into one particular actress. Her name is Alexa Nichols, who was part of the original Zoe 101 cast on Nickelodeon. She is on YouTube now, she is an activist. And she is known for Eat Predators. She has a YouTube channel. She streams a lot, to showcase stories about survivors, a lot of things that goes on with predatory behaviors in industries like Nickelodeon and Sony Music, and even the protection that is done from those who have been a part of the cast, whether they have been cast members themselves, like those who have been in the studio productions, or like perhaps other corporate people inside, like other writers and things like that, doing their or producers doing their job to try to protect people like Dan Schneider and Brian Peck and things like that. And really kind of watching and taking in um, who were really taking their time to voice the issue that was going on in the studio and in the sets versus those who were trying to defend the situation for whatever the reason, whether it was for the sake of trying to get back to the industry or trying to protect their own pockets or something, whatever the case may be, there was usually something in it for them that they felt like that level of protection was there, even to discredit other survivors for what was going on. And that can lead into a whole nother topic, but my focus isn't really there. And then, but to continue on, then there was the topic of Diddy. Now we all know about the story that's been going on with Diddy since I think at this point November. The pretty much the ongoing saga of what looks to be the downfall, more and more of the downfall of Diddy, with the whole situation that has arisen from Cassie and whatnot. And I remember when the whole situation unfolding, I was watching a YouTube channel, someone who was streaming the situation. We were just simply talking, we're having a conversation, and someone put in the comment section about Diddy, like we were wondering what's going on, and that's when we saw the raids happening, both on his LA and Miami homes, on the Fox News, and so I had came that day. I think it was on that Monday. I was ready to try to talk about the situation because I was fueled by the situation with Diddy and how it was kind of adding on top of what I was seeing with Quiet on Set. And I realized something in that moment, that there is a lot of focus on what the abusers and the predators are doing, even to the point where we are seeing people creating the enablement, and something that I've been seeing going on, in particular on social media for years at this point. To the point now where I won't say it's a shock value, but it's almost kind of like things that at this point now the exposure of these people are so bad that it's starting to become like the new shock content that people are so ready to consume, especially in light of what has been happening with Quiet on Set. And I felt that it was, when I started talking about it, something about it felt off. It didn't feel right because it didn't actually align with the integrity of what I want my channel to be. I didn't want it to be like a gossip channel, or kind of create shock value content for what's going on with things that are going on within the industry. And so I wanted to focus instead on what is it that can be done to ensure that the enablement and the protection stops, or at least what can be done to prevent it. And I know it's going to sound woo woo. I know it's going to sound cliche. I know it's going to sound like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're talking about this, but it's true. We're going to talk about the idea of love and how love is and isn't what we think that it is. More is it than is. Um, when we talk about the idea of love, love is talking about esteem. And this came from the idea of, I remember I was reading in like the Bible, like God has not given the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I like to, kind of not substitute that word, or kind of use the idea of esteem, because I know love kind of seemed like, it's again the woo woo thing. So I like using the idea of esteem. What does it mean to esteem something? It means to value something highly. It means to raise it to where it is of an appreciated level. When you have self esteem, that means that you are taking the time to appreciate and elevate yourself. That is what love is. When you love others, you're doing what it is that you can do to esteem them, which means you're appreciating them. You're adding value to them. When babies are growing up, and when they feel love, when they feel attentive, when they feel like people are taking the time to give them the value that they're worth, this is how they're able to grow and to develop and be able to have optimum health, not only externally but internally as well. When I look at a lot of people who are enablers and abusers, I'm sorry, abusers, enablers, and defenders of predatory behavior, I often see that there is a lack of love and esteem that is there. They are often more focused on trying to keep somebody that they feel like they need, or to keep something that they need, instead of actually looking at the situation at hand and realizing, is this really for my benefit? Is this really a good um, value system for value system for me to uphold this person in this manner, despite the fact that this is dangerous? When I was looking at certain people who were commenting on Dan Schneider, and even some of the people who have been commenting against them specifically, I realized that many of these people are so focused on trying to get their level of fame back, their level of recognition back, to get back to certain things that used to be, when they were younger, when they had that moment in time, when they had their fame and things like that. They were so focused on trying to get back to that and relate to that, that they weren't really moving forward with their lives. It's almost kind of like there's a part of them that's like really stuck in the past, or has not really fully developed and matured, and in the hopes of maybe protecting this particular person, maybe because they love what they did, or because it was an environment that was safe for them and not necessarily for others. It gave them a reason to want to keep pursuing, if not this particular person, then maybe something in this industry, or something that they felt like was meant for them. People who actually love themselves don't do stuff like that. When you love yourself and when you love other people, it doesn't matter what your experience was like. If it's good, that's one thing, and if it's bad, it's another. But people who really love themselves will see a person for who they actually are, and will see the situation at hand, will see the facts, will see everything about this particular idea about this person, and they will make the steps accordingly to ensure that this person is removed. They won't do whatever it takes to keep them. Even if they were to try to get back to something that is familiar to them, if they wouldn't do it in a way that would be detrimental to somebody else just so they can get ahead. That is a lack of esteem. Um, hey, what's up, Sunday? It's good seeing you. Thank you. Um, um, people who actually have some sense of self worth, self value, would never want to try to keep anybody that would be detrimental to either themselves or to other people, especially somebody who were abusive and predatory, as Dan Schneider was, or even P. Diddy. There are a lot of people who will want to stay in things because they like the attention, they like the accolades, they like whatever material gain that they hope that they get. They like whatever attention seeking that they're hoping to find while being in this particular environment or being around this particular person, and they're willing to ignore those signs just to have those things. That is a very dangerous person. That is a very sick person. But these are the types of people that will enable and protect abusers and predators. And so, if you are someone who is keeping someone in your life that you know is dangerous to your well-being, especially if you are in a relationship with them. If you are somebody who is in a romantic relationship with someone and you are seeing certain signs that is um, alarming, if not dangerous, to your well-being, to your health, um, by all means, if you got to love yourself enough to separate from this person. There is not one person on this earth that is worth you being in pain just to have something that is distantly reflective of pleasure. um we see in a lot of these relationships how there are people, and it's largely women, but it happens with men too, who will stay in toxic environments and stay with people who do them such damage to their mental well-being, to their emotional well-being, to their social well-being, financial well-being, and even just to have a relationship, just to have benefits. because they can't really see themselves with anybody else, and it leads them to believe that nobody else would want them. That is a sign of a lack of esteem or lack of self-esteem. You will even see, like, even in relationships, how people will fight others for their cheating partner or their toxic partner having an affair with that particular person, and they're not even considering um trying to get rid of that particular person that is harming them. Why? What is it about this person who, despite this evil, wicked nature, that makes you believe that there is something that is valuable to keep? It's usually involving something that is material, because there's nothing about it as actually fulfillment. There's nothing about it as actually um contentment. It's usually something that's going to either involve money, it may mean a house, it may mean some type of status, but at the end of the day, it's always something that is reflective of something material that they're hoping will give them the sense of commitment or contentment, even if they're not getting a full commitment to their overall well-being. That is somebody who does not esteem themselves. So if that is you, I encourage you to really take some time to consider, what is the end goal of you being with this particular person? What is it? What is the end goal? Whether if it's a romantic relationship, whether it's trying to get career opportunities, or even if it's trying to get ahead as far as um, something of a legacy, or having a sense of identity. What is the long term goal here? Because if the long term goal is really worth you, if you believe that it's worth you losing your sense of self care, there's something wrong. There is something seriously wrong. Another example, and this goes to loving others. This goes into relationships with where you have a parent, who has a child, and they're managed to get into a relationship with someone who is toxic and abusive, either to them or perhaps to their child. Sometimes, and especially to the child. There's something about children that really brings out the true nature of how people will behave when they are in vulnerable positions. There's, there's like four areas where you really see the truth about people, and how they handle having power or authority when that leads or doesn't lead to abuse. That happens with women. It happens with children. It will happen with people who are disabled, or they have some type of handicap, or it will happen with people who are disenfranchised to some capacity and don't really have a true voice. Those four areas is where you're going to see the truth of people and their true nature, their true character, and their flaws that they have to really work on, or they are not working on enough, right? So let's say you have somebody who is very toxic and they manage to get involved with the parent who has a child, and there's something that happens with that child that represents an abuse. Sometimes what you will see is a parent, competing with their child and making it seem as if, like, the child must have done something wrong in order for their toxic partner to have done something to them. Listen, that in itself is a problem. If you love this toxic person more, and you could probably see the signs that this person is toxic and not helping you, that there is something detrimental, that you're seeing something about your own life that is falling into decay with this person. If you're willing to believe that person over your own child who you have brought into this world, something is wrong. That shows a sign of a lack of esteem, usually for other people, particularly what belongs to you, which is your child, your biological wealth. We have to be mindful of what we allow, and especially who we allow into our space, and what specifically we are willing to protect and we're willing to enable, because whatever we protect and whatever we enable is eventually, and no, it immediately makes us an accessory. It makes us a person who continues the progress of a system that keeps abuse in a thriving environment where it can cause more damage. I know that it's very easy to kind of look at other people and see what it is that they're doing wrong, how they have managed to be so protective of predators and abusers within an institution institutions that are filled with enablers, apologists, and even other abusers who look after one another. But we have to also bring that closer to home. For some people, this is very close to home because it's reminiscent of when they were abused and they were preyed upon, and people didn't look out for them. One of the things that was really bothersome about the Quiet on Set documentary, um, particularly with Brian Peck, was watching how many people were so ready to defend um, Brian with those letters when he was taken to court. They worked to ensure that he was only in jail for 16 months. That is and there was some actors that I knew and I was really fond of growing up that I saw that they were protecting them, and there wasn't even really an apology once the documentary came out. These were people who were looking after themselves because they wanted something material, or they were trying to protect something that was material, or were trying to protect a legacy that was um, attached to their reputation. And that again represents a lack of love and esteem, not only for themselves, not only to other people that they have hurt, but also to themselves. It shows their character, it shows their flaws to somebody who has um, been vulnerable and attacked in the midst of that vulnerability. And because there's nothing done, it's kind of turned me off from those people. I don't want anything to really do with them on their platforms. But how is that reflective of you? Are you someone that ignores abuse? Are you somebody who protects an abuser or protects and enables an environment of abuse? Have you been around people who do that? And how does that reflect in the love that you have for either yourself or they how other people who do that love themselves? What does it make you see about them? I guarantee you that it's not there. It's non-existent. They don't know how to do it, which is why they're keeping that person there in their lives. Um, and that's part of the reason why, especially if you're somebody who has been hurt and harmed by someone, and you have people who didn't abuse you, or that didn't protect you, I should say, but they protected the abuser, then that lets you know how much they are able to esteem you. And for a lot of people, that is a very hard pill to swallow, and it often can lead people down a destructive path if they are not having the support in other places. There are a lot of people who come back from that and try to make something better for themselves in that situation, but there are people who don't, and it gives them a reason to hate themselves and go down a self-destructive path. Um, and so to add to this, there's one more thing that I wanted to say to this. And I think this goes to parents. I think this is a lesson learned that I have seen. One of the things that I saw happening within that Quiet on Set documentary was that um, people who were abusers, um, they they kind of created this environment where they use the parents' love against their kids. And you would often see kids in separate rooms away from their parents, getting parents to co-sign what these abusive predator preying um, producers wanted for the kids. You have parents that will argue with them, that will argue that something isn't right, and then you would have like managers and the producers themselves saying that oh, there's nothing to worry about, just simply go along with the program, and things will be fine, and then trying to use that particular either money or particular fame against the parent to keep them within that system of doing things. It's very sick. But it also goes to show how you can want something so badly for someone else and not recognizing that if you're not careful, you can find yourself in an enabling position as well. just to try to give something to your kid that they may want in that moment, or because somebody else is desiring something more sinister for your kid while creating the environment for them. There should never be a time where a parent's decision is overruled by somebody else who is not raising your kid. It should never be there should never be a time where there is somebody else raising your kid in a different fashion than what you don't want. Um, Unless you're just simply being a difficult parent and you're making it difficult to create a good environment, there should be no reason for that. And in those types of instances, you should be able to pull your kids away. Now, and that's part of the reason why you got to look at contracts too, to see how, if you can or cannot pull them out at a particular time. But nobody should be deciding what to do with your kids. Nobody should have the right to be an influencer, to put you in a position where your kid either chooses you as a parent or choose you as a producer, because or choosing the producer, because that in itself is a toxic, abusive environment. And if you aren't careful, in your care and your love for them, you could be placing them in love and care for their dreams. Um, you could be putting them in a toxic environment that damages the child's well-being. And I know that was happening consistently in the Quiet on Set video. Again, there's no blame to parents in any regard, but it's a reminder that there is a responsibility to ensure that abuse is not taking place, that no gaslighting occurs, because gaslighting is abusive. Um, or to be put in any position where you're in manipulation, because those are standards, that those are things that lead to abuse, or a path that leads to abuse as well, and can go against your standards as a parent and someone who is supposed to be a guardian over your child. Um, is there anything else? Yes, there is. So if I can get one more thing to say, um, we have to be very careful about how we I identify abuse. How do I say this in a way? Because I know how this can sound, but I'm going to be very careful with how I say this. Um, Many times when it comes to abuse, whether you're the victim or the abuser, um, it is very easy to kind of look at a person from the survivor standpoint or the abuser standpoint, and forget that the thing that we have to stop is abuse, predatory behavior, manipulation, and things like that. And if it happens to a person, then that person needs to be punished, so that way the concept of abuse is diminished. Now we're living in times where we are actually seeing a state of lawlessness and bioprotection, to where these crimes can thrive. And I think many times, because we see it so much, it makes it very easy for us to get so focused on people that we forget that it's beyond just simply a person. It's a it's the principle of the thing. It's the concept of the thing that we need to be mindful of. A lot of these abusers that are out here, they were abused themselves. They were preyed upon, and in doing so, they have become predators, because many of them may not have received the help. Um, isn't an excuse? No, but it is a fact and a reality that we must accept. And so, if we have to, how do I say this? And how do I say this? There is a way that we have to be mindful of addressing the actual problem of abuse, using people as the example whenever they do it, but also not forget that it's bigger than merely a person. And sometimes, especially if we're triggered, or we have been very, very close to abuse, it can be very, very difficult to accept that. And for those who have been survivors, my heart really goes out to you. For those of you who have managed to survive and still managed to have a way to pick yourselves up, I commend you so much for doing that. I think that that is a sign of strength that a lot of people who have never been abused, I should say, will never know what that is like. I, for one, I don't know what that's really like to witness that level of abuse and be able to come on the other side of that. There's so many people who have been able to do that, and I am so grateful for that. And that happens in so many ways, and whether it's in a locality or whether it's an institution or within a nation, abuse happens all the time. Predatory behavior happens all the time. But it's very important to not um, make identifiers within an abuse. Whether you are an abuse, whether there is an abuser, or whether you yourself um, is is a survivor. Because what ends up happening is that it becomes a, how do I say this? It doesn't like become the history. It becomes the thing that you're known for and all that you live for. I remember there was an episode of The Young Fix My Life, and there was a young woman who had been in, I think, in a sexually abusive relationship. Hey, Tequila, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. Um, she was in an abusive situation. I think she was sexually assaulted, and she grew up to be an activist. And she came to Young Fix My Life, and I think she was saying that she was um, um using activism to, help other people, because in turn it was showing how she was healing herself, and Iana was really showing her how much that she hasn't really healed, and not really taking the therapeutic measures in order to overcome that, but instead putting her energy into activism work, believing that somehow it was going to, change, affected her. Activism in and of itself is not going to be the thing that heals. Activism is activism, right? Being active against predators, being active against those who have caused harm to people, that is that is its own thing. But it's not going to be the thing that heals you, and it's not going to be the thing that you can use to identify yourself in order to really find healing. It's not going to be something that's going to be done to puts you in a position where, like, after you get rid of the abuser, it's like, okay, then what next? Is everything going to go back to normal? No, because that's still a part of the history. However, um, that's why you got to be clear about who you are after this. Activism is what you do, is not who you are. Surviving the situation, it is the story of your life. It tells the story, but it's not an identifier in and of itself. There is still you after surviving the abuse, and so you have to be able to know what that is from that point forward, and still recognize that it's what you're fighting for is more than just a person or a people. It is a concept. The Bible calls it a principality and a stronghold. There are things that are bigger than just one particular person, and it's very easy to try to make someone the face of it, because what they have done is so insidious and heinous. But there is it's just bigger than that. And I hope that I was able to make sense with that. I hope it doesn't lead to anybody being triggered. I don't want people getting triggered with what it is I'm saying, and I know it's a very sensitive topic. But healing and activism never really works. You got to do healing with actual therapeutic measures. And even with the therapy, you got to know who you are, besides the abuse, because the abuse is not what defines you. Is what you survive from, but it's not what defines you. And I hope that there are people out there who are survivors who have an understanding of that, especially with the proper therapeutic tools. So with that said, I know I said quite a bit, and I think I like this better than when I had my first go around. I had to delete the last video that I made talking about this because it was bad, and then it wasn't as many people here. Hey, Luana, good seeing you. Good afternoon there. It's actually evening over here. So with that said, if for those of you who are coming in, make sure that you catch the replay of this. Leave your feedback and leave your comments. I want to hear what you may have to say. Um, I I'm wanting to have a conversation in a way where it's less gossipy, and less of a triggering based on shock content, and really having a humane conversation that leads to productivity about what can be really done to boost love and esteem towards others and people. A lot of these people who are protecting and enabling abuse, these are people that don't love themselves. And I'm guarantee you that they don't love themselves. They have a hard time really loving people. And that's why they're keeping abusers and predators in their lives, despite the damage that it's doing to themselves and possibly other people, especially to children. And for those of you who are surviving it, I don't want you to damage your. I'm sorry. I don't want you to identify yourself by what may have damaged you. I want you to see it as something that you have overcome, and we're grateful that you were able to overcome it. But it's not who you are. That helps to give, actually helps to give an abuser and predator more power, even even while you are trying to fight against him, or that particular person. Um, it helps to give that person fuel in your life based on what he has done, and it's not proper healing. And that's why healing is healing and activism is activism. You have to be able to find that both of those on both different fields of that, and not just try to find it in one particular thing through activism, because actions in that regard does not always lead to healing and finding a rightful sense of identity and purpose. All right. So that is it. I hope that everybody was able to gain something from just my talk. And again, the comments can are you can leave a comment down below. If you're new here, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that way you are alerted every time there is a new video. If you're new here, or you're the usual um, channel venturer here, make sure that you hit the like button. And I look forward to seeing whatever feedback that you have to offer. All right, everyone. So that's it. Thank you all for the opportunity for me to talk with you, and I will catch you next time. See you later.